Welcome to Choose Greater Health with Paige Spears. My name is Sue Roskoff with the World of Ability Podcast Network, and we are so excited to have Paige joining us on the second and fourth Fridays of the month at 2 o'clock Central. Paige, I am so happy to see you. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Sue. I'm doing great. And my guest today is Cynthia Aldrich. And let's kick off our conversation about brain injury and other health event recovery and mindset. Cynthia, you can introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yes, I'm Cynthia Aldrich, and I'm a grief coach and an author. I help people go through their journey with grief, and I'm also on a mission to bring grief back into the the sacred circle, we could call it, of life. It's sort of it's more than an orphan. It seems like it's been kicked out of the sacred circle of life. And it always traditionally used to be part of it. So there's that. And do you want a little bit of my background? Shall I give that now?
You can get into that in a little bit too. That's really powerful what you just said about grief. And that's what we were talking about in my brain injury support group last night. We started in person locally in Columbia, Missouri, and we've been meeting on Zoom for a while. And we were just discussing things like how do we cope with having a lost part of ourselves? And I also had a moment of that for myself when I was dealing with disappointment about not being able to dance so much anymore. And oh, I could have been a professional performing artist on stage, but then on the other hand, definitely not now. And just really coming to terms with that too in more ways than one now. And
Yes.
also not being able to read as well as I could since I used to be such a strong reader. And now I'm lucky if I get through one hard copy book a month, if that.
Right. Well, it's pretty amazing that you can, from what I've heard a little bit of your journey.
Yeah, oxygen deprivation brain injury has a way of changing things on a lot of levels.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel grief about that? Have you been through grief about the loss?
Yeah, it's come in waves.
Mm-hmm.
In the first year, definitely. And there was some panic initially over not being able to read at all, make sense of what I was seeing. And it took a good few months of really going back to the basics and kids' books. I rediscovered that, and that brought a little bit of joy back in, but that was a process in itself, all right. And although I can take comfort in the fact that I had accomplished a lot of life milestones up until that point, being 32, and I had graduated from college, and all that I had left to do was get married, which I also did within the year afterwards. So that was something.
Yes.
And
Congratulations.
I've continued with horseback riding, and I won Rider of the Year at my barn in 2021.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
horses have been very instrumental in my process also. Them just being there for me, and I can do a lot of the same things as I could before on a horse.
Yes, horses are very healing beings.
Mm-hmm.
They, I've seen that with people. I know someone who um, had was really, really sick, and and being around a horse. She had a friend who had a horse, and so being around the horse, and eventually, she hadn't been a rider, but eventually she got on the horse and rode, and she kept getting better and better and better because of this relationship that she had with this horse. And so I really see them as healing creatures.
Very.
Mhm.
In addition to dogs, and I had a dog at that time. She was living with my parents after I had adopted her in 2009 at a dog training program in Missouri also, and brought her back to Illinois to live with my parents who had a fenced-in yard. And she stayed with them, and she got to be about 12.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was a little Belgian Malinois mix.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, dogs are very healing also.
Mm-hmm.
My cats have been too. I mean, they, if I had, some kind of anything going on with my digestion or something in my torso going on, there was this one cat in particular that would just lay on me and purr, and the healing vibrations from the purring, and then
Yeah.
kneading me wherever it was that I hurt, where there was
Mm-hmm.
discomfort or pain.
Yeah. Cats are very comforting also.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Animals are very tuned in on a lot of levels.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they don't have a thinking brain to get in the way, so it's um, so they don't have the filters that mess things up that we do from having a subconscious.
Mm-hmm. So how did you first get into grief coaching?
Well, 12 years ago, the end of this month, my husband of 35 years suddenly and unexpectedly passed. And that evening, because I didn't discover him until we lived in a rural, very, 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 very rural area with, 5-acre minimum properties. So he was up the valley and working, doing some work for a friend, some friends who were coming to stay for the season, and and he didn't show. He didn't come home, and so I went up there and looked for him and finally found him. And then, once that all was taken care of, the EMTs came um, and it was pitch black, and so my friends took me home because I was in shock, right? And it's like I couldn't drive. And so, and we got to my house and we're sitting there talking. I don't remember what, if I even talked actually, but all of a sudden he showed up, and I have had that experience in my life where pets or friends or family, their spirits would show up after they passed. And so there he was. And I actually even said to our two neighbors, I want to have some alone time with Bruce, to talk to him. And so they left. And the first thing I said to him was, "Why did you leave?" And he said, "Don't worry. There's nothing wrong. It's perfect. Exactly the way it's supposed to be. Don't forget that." And I've been most of my life journaler, and I had my journal right on the coffee table. And so I had the thought, I better write that down. And he said, "Yes, write that down." So I did, and that was the beginning of filling up journals with the continued conversations that we had, where he would help me with make decisions or give me information that I really needed to know, and comfort me. And also that night, I embraced grief as my teacher. I figured if this happened, there was a really good reason for it. And somehow in between in the shock, some of these thoughts came in. And so I invited grief to be present with me as my teacher. And so I learned a lot. From
That's really a good point about lives can change in an instant. And that's where strong mindset work tendency can bridge things, and it can really be helpful in creating a new path. And like for me, and entrepreneurship, it took a good year at least for me to really grasp that I wasn't going back to work probably. And already, even by the time I left the rehab hospital, it wasn't. I did try some return to driving work with vocational rehab, and my skills were improving, but there's still a thing with my vision where I have convergence insufficiency, where my eyes and my brain don't communicate together the way they used to. So I have prisms in my glasses lenses, and still figured it was best that I not drive. And so I thought, well, I'm going to need to create my own thing. And well, there still wasn't a whole lot available online that I could do even in 2017. So it wasn't until 2020 that everyone really went online. So I was still thinking, what else can I do? And I did start a disability benefits application in around 2018, and that just got approved after an appeal in 2019, and put the back pay for that towards functional neurology appointments. And so I was investing in my own recovery and well-being there. And it just seemed like, well, I didn't know who would hire me even for admin work online, and how suited was I to that kind of thing anymore. My last job, that was my first and only full-time job, also was doing data entry at a law firm, ironically, in the medical claims department. And though I did have good health insurance that paid a vast majority of my inpatient stay, thank heavens. And I was just looking for something I could do that would be fulfilling and also support me financially. And it's been an interesting journey there, with coming up with the idea for my business that took a few years, and really putting the pieces together of what was missing in brain injury recovery, since it isn't so obvious like standard physical rehab. And I was also looking into speaking and getting paid to do that, although a lot of the things online are, well, you see all the offers for speaker training and things, and that seems like a lot of financial investment to get any return whatsoever on that. So I was kind of bouncing around for a while and picked up the resources of Small Business Liaison at my local Chamber of Commerce, who helped me get my LLC started, and I got business bank accounts set up. And so I've been chipping away at it and gaining progress. And it was an Igniting Ideas business accelerator through Synergy's work that I found out about through the National Disability Institute that really got things going for me. And so I applied and I did that. And this last March, we had our pitch day where I gave a presentation And for the whole thing, my business won a $500 grant that I put some of towards our marketing for YEA and found out about that. And that just seemed like another missing piece well, you don't hear too much about mindset from standard entrepreneur training programs and even the basics, things like Hello Alice. And they have things about how to start a business with like the financial side of things and SOPs and how to hire a team. And they don't cover much about the mindset or accountability, much less visualization and dreams and collaboration. And that's where YEA comes in.
Yes, it surely does. Yeah, it's quite a robust platform. I didn't start into grief coaching. I started as a writer. I'd been an artist all my life. And I started just writing, and I realized I was writing this book. And so I'm working on the revisions of that book now. Well, not right now, but right in this time period. But I'm in the midst of that. And then as I was writing the book, it was like I started, it's like I have to have something in order to support. I mean, I had done illustrated children's books and things where I got money from that, but it wasn't a whole bunch. And so all of a sudden I started, getting these images of coaching people because I also taught art, and it was one of the best things that I ever did. It was one of my favorite things that I ever did because, the whole thing about teaching is it's like mentoring in part. And so the excitement when a student grasps a concept, the first concept of whatever the subject is, and then when they, become fluent, shall we say, in the subject after they've gone through it, and then helping them with their mindset. It wasn't called mindset at the time. Mindset was not a word when I was teaching art, but that's what I was doing. I was coaching, and that's just what it was, just a natural thing for me to do. And so I would question them, and they would, be able to clear on their own by my questioning, and they're either thinking about it or having an answer right at the moment for themselves. And then they'd have a breakthrough. And I found out later that it affected other parts of their lives. And the feeling of helping someone clear themselves of something that is detrimental to, it's holding them back from what they want. In other words, in this case, it was their creative flow that somebody along the way early on had cut off, or they had accepted that. That's what we do when we're especially little kids. But so that was there, and so it was like I was being pulled to do grief coaching, and I went, grief coaching.
Do you have a program of processing grief through writing?
Yes, that's part of it. I have many tools in my tool bag, right? And that is one of them. So there's that, and there's also drawing, doodling. There's using the voice as, just the simple thing of humming.
Bringing the arts into the process can add a lot to it.
It does.
Get more depth out of it.
yeah, and it also helps people because it's hard, especially in the beginning, and for however long it takes, where it's difficult. It helps um, start training the brain to include something where that brings joy back into your life. And so, that's, I found, a really important thing to do, because that's what I did. I mean, that's the guidance I got from my grief teacher. Grief. um, and so I just went through that process and found what worked for me, and then with other people, it's just expanded. So yes, it's it's a it's very good to have something besides just talk. You can't just talk through grief.
That reminds me of a program called Story Power that a coach, Chris Carr, uses with her community.
Story power, yes, the power of story, and it's so then I slowly started expanding because into the idea of being a grief coach, because I thought, because I had always thought I've done so many things in my life, an herbalist, a farmer, I mean, you could say gardening, but it was bigger than gardening, and and practicing shamanism and the things that you can do, journeys to bring back soul parts for people, get power animals for them, um, and there's plenty of medicine in that too. And each one of these different things that I had been drawn to all my life, dance and yoga, and was something that held healing power in it. And so that's so I have a wide variety of things to offer.
Yeah, I've been bringing concepts like accountability and collaboration into my work with my business and also in my recovery, since I felt rather creatively challenged at first. Like, well, I went to one of those uh, painting events at a nature center with my mom in the first year. And it was a painting of, I think, either a sailboat or flowers. And, or no, it was a canoe. And I chose the canoe. And we got some painting instruction about what to block in first and how to do the shading and things. And it was like one of those classes at a place like Paint the Town, which I had been to before and done a painting of a pond at sunset. So there was some working art back into things for my recovery also. And I've learned things like that at brain injury one day camp picnic kind of thing that we do with my local group with the Brain Injury Association of Missouri, where we meet at a park. And that's coming up in the next month, where we did neurographic art at one of them, and that's where you draw one unbroken line and then start by filling in the corners where the lines intersect. And then I colored mine in to look like balloons, which is what it seems like to me. And that's, it's really interesting how everything comes together like that. And then things like accountability and building on the dreams and declaration with YEA. And that's brought new dimension and depth into it for me also.
Yes, and with grief, declaring when someone is ready, when someone has gotten to a certain point in their grieving process, that they're ready to take another step into their new life, take a step into their new life, then declaring, coming up with what it is they want to do, if it's new, or what aspect, what they want to do. And so declaring is really important for that, visualizing a declaring, and then taking action. And so it's a step-by-step thing that they can do when they're ready. But you really have to be ready, because
Yeah,
if you're
it's
in shock, and sometimes the shock lasts a long time,
yeah.
then
Yeah, I imagine you're familiar with the stages of grief also.
yes, but it doesn't follow like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that can really be nonlinear.
Yeah, it's very non-linear for sure. And so I'm more fluid with that than because for me it's more important to have a person be able to, with their heart, and their heart is working more than their brain at this point. And so it's like engaging the brain and, waking up neural passageways and stuff by doing what we were talking about before, different creative things. And then getting to the point where, where they're actually ready to make a shift into, and it's using your mind more again, because in that stage, those stages of grief, of shock, the mind is not very much a part of it. It comes in, but and it can be there to help. Like I could function when I was in deep shock, take care of the grief or the death details. I call them all the death details. I was grateful for all the death details, actually, because it helped me get my mind back online. And I had to do them anyway. And so the details were part of the grief process. That's just what it was. So, and I did do some declaring from time to time. Like at first I couldn't imagine having a celebration of life for him, or, when that could possibly ever be, because I couldn't imagine it. And then it was within 3 months, it was like a month and a half later, I knew that it was almost time to do that. It was like, I really felt like I had this presence with me when I embraced grief, that there was a presence, and maybe it was just part of me, an aspect of me that's conversant with that. It doesn't matter, but that was with me, and really let me know what, like, okay, you could do this now. Like, yeah, I could.
Yeah.
Like it was the first night. Well, I didn't sleep all night because the whole thing happened with Bruce. That He manifested.
Me, I was all adrenaline and sedation and mood medication withdrawal for the first few days afterwards in the hospital.
Oh, I bet you were. So, so I, so I finally, about an hour before dawn, was up sitting on the living room couch. I just kind of laid my head down. He was still present with me, but I laid my head down and I slept for about an hour. And when I woke up, he was gone. For then, he came back a lot. And at that time, this part of me said, you other people are going to want to know about this, because I wasn't having any thoughts at the time. And then that gave me, I had the thought. It's like, oh yes. And all of a sudden I realized I felt emotionally hungry, not, hungry for connection with the people that I loved. And I knew that the first call would be to his mother. But it was too early. She was on the West Coast, and I was in Mountain Time at that point. I'd been living in Mountain Time. So yeah, it's interesting. The whole thing with mindset and the heart and the mind. Van Morrison had a song where it's, I Forgot That Love Existed is the name of it. And the chorus is, if my heart could do my thinking and my head began to feel, then I'd look upon the world anew and know what's truly real.
Yeah, YEA teaches and emphasizes some skills that really are life skills in addition to entrepreneurship.
Yes, yes, they do. And I love the way that they do that it's included. It's not like life isn't extraneous to business. It's business is a part of life, right?
And entrepreneurship is one big personal development exercise in itself.
It really is, isn't it? It really is. Writing a memoir is also an incredible exercise in personal therapy. It was like I had never had official therapy before, but this has been therapy. Writing this book, it's been amazing. Now I love writing. I've got 4 books published, so I consider myself a writer as well as a painter, and I love it. I love it. And it's interesting because painting does involve the mind a little bit, depending on what kind of painting you're doing. But there's more just flow for me anyway. And other artists I've spoken with. But with writing, there's so much more involvement of the mind. And the mindset is a really big part of it too. So yeah, so I've really come to appreciate mindset.
A good starting point for me in that area was making collages of pictures that I thought were pretty.
Yes. Yeah. It's because whatever it is, or I've not done that many collages, but they're an excellent tool for getting things clear for yourself, being able to sometimes just do it, just gather images and put them down and go, okay, there's a message for me here. I've had that experience too. So
yeah. Or just drawing a card from a deck, like I've had a crystal deck and also recently a nature deck that I won in a giveaway from brain injury expert.
Oh, wow. That she was the one who did the deck.
Yeah,
I'm assuming she was a she.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, those kinds of things are
Mhm.
really important tools also.
Yeah.
There's so much and more, the whole sound healing thing is fascinating to me also because
Mhm.
of because anybody can use it just with their own voice. Well, even if it's just not even if it's just humming is so powerful. And there are certain sounds that you can make with humming that correspond to different parts of the body and are healing in themselves um, when you know those different parts.
Even humming along with meditation audios.
Yeah, yeah. I really love that. I was discouraged from using my voice when I was a girl and a young girl, and I am having such fun now exploring the use of my voice. And what I do a lot of is humming. I sing sometimes too, but
Hmm.
I really enjoy the humming. I love the feeling of the vibration in my body.
Yeah. What I can do also is include the main page for all the flip books in the show notes, and viewers can discover more about our director's approach to the YEA content through her own business.
Yes, that's a really good idea. And because this, we could talk a little bit about the program.
Yeah.
And so Young Entrepreneurs Alliance, or YEA, is a program started by a woman, Carol Witt is her name, knows who noticed that there were lots of capable people who were just surviving, who were trying to build a business or get by in whatever they wanted to do in life. And so she started this program for um, people to be able to move from just surviving to thriving. And people joined her, and they now have, that was 7 years ago, I think, 7 or 8 years ago.
They're now in 85 countries or even more, as seen in my background.
Yes. And so that's YEA Global. And then the director of our cohort, Anna E. Salas, is a director of YEA USA. So that's a separate thing from the YEA Global. Different. I mean, the program is the same actually, because it's based on the 7 pillars for thriving, and there's these tenets of these pillars that fit so perfectly together, don't they? Starting with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And we've been using them in our own lives.
Yes. And so there's, and so Paige and I both are co-facilitators. So we are there to help the students and other, other help. And we get the benefit of being exposed to the program, because we have to understand the program in order to help the students who are going to be taking it.
Yeah, if this cohort doesn't launch in October, then darn it, we're going to make it happen next spring.
Yes, well, and it could have happened this October. So Yeah. So this is the first YEA USA cohort. All of the other countries are 80, I think there's 87 or 88 now. And so USA is one of those. And then all of the other ones are, I don't even know where they all are. There's quite a few in Africa and elsewhere, obviously, because that's a lot of countries. That's something interesting to find out. And so the thing about the program I found is that it's so powerful. It's the reason why I decided to join as a facilitator, is because I needed some help with the entrepreneurship side of things, and really, getting my business tightened up. And so when I could see these 7 pillars and how they fit together, and what was involved in going from one to another of those pillars, I could see it. I could see myself successful in my dreams. It was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I'm really happy that I did.
Is there anything else you would say to our viewers, or about where they can contact you?
Oh, yes. You can contact me. Actually, do you have show notes that you can put up afterwards? Can you add
Yeah.
them? You can add them.
Yeah.
You can contact me. I have a couple of ways to contact me, so we could have those put in the show notes. A telephone number, email, and a calendar if you want to have a chat about grief.
Sounds good. Thanks for being my guest today, Cynthia.
Thank you, Paige, for asking me. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah. We'll see everyone on the next